Committee of the Whole meeting to order here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. We have no remote electronic attendance, I don't believe, so we start with our presentation. Chief Galt of our Therapy Canine Pepper with her handlers, Kara Larson and Nicole Sotowaster.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Very excited to introduce you to our newest program at the Moline Police Department and our new dog, Pepper, who is a 1-year-old blue tick coonhound that was a rescue dog from the Brevard County Sheriff's Department in Florida. Last April, I attended the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, and several departments had started to obtain canines from the Brevard County Sheriff's Department through a program called Paws and Stripes. I'll let them tell you a little bit about the program, but the canines are donated after they're screened for temperament and put in through some training, donated to police departments to deploy in the field as therapy or comfort canines. So with the funding that we had available from the strategic planning session and the city goal that we had to expand our partnership with the Center for Youth and Family Solutions, we were able to obtain this dog and partner Kara Larson, who is a police officer, been here with Moline Police Department for about 5 years, and our social worker, Nicole Sotowaster, who's a program supervisor with the Center for Youth and Family Solutions, to co-handle the canine. And they will be doing all sorts of different things for our community, making presentations, attending different types of trauma calls or events, and maybe even city council meetings if they get too traumatic for you. So I'll let them tell you a little bit about the program.
Yeah, so like she said, we attended a program in Cocoa, Florida. It's called Paws and Stripes College. Before we got there, she went through a 12-week course that just taught her like basic obedience and just made sure that she was good to be a therapy dog. But when we got there, they basically told us how to handle her, and then just kind of went through different things that they use therapy dogs for and gave us different ideas how we can use her when she comes back home. And then we brought her back home on an airplane. It's very stressful, but she made it. And then Nicole can tell you a little bit what we'll do with her here.
Sure. So the plans for Pepper, now that we're here, is to visit with people that have experienced trauma, especially kids. As we know, right, dogs calm us down, well, most of us, calm us down, and so she will be used a lot with kids experiencing trauma. We also will be able to use her with our coworkers after critical incidences, as well as we're looking forward to using her at the Child's Advocacy Center, helping with forensic interviews of children. She'll also be doing community events. She's already attended a group. She's gone to a meeting. She liked the snacks. And from there, I mean, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit with what she can do. She's already proven that her training has been wonderful. And she knows what she needs to do, meeting people. So we're super excited about it.
Yeah, we're really excited. This is the first therapy canine that's partnered with the police department in the Quad Cities. There's several of them up in the suburbs of Chicago, but we're the first to have one in our program. And as you guys know, our partnership with the Center for Youth and Family Solutions has been groundbreaking and extremely beneficial for our community and our police department. I don't remember, Nicole, our original referrals were about 30 a year, and we're up probably close to about 900 or so.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
From July 1, I just did referral and stuff today. We're at 628 from July 1st.
So those are the cases that we're referring for social services in our community. So super excited to add this. Kara currently is in the patrol division, and so what we're having her do was, along with Nicole, they handle the dog about 80-20%, pass the dog back and forth between their houses and trying to get the dog acclimated to this weather. First of all, we rescued the dog from the beach in Florida and said, no, trust us, we're going to take you to Illinois. It was snowing. The poor dog is trying to adjust to the climate and everything. Getting used to her surroundings. She'll be doing some additional training of contented canines here in Moline as well, for some obedience. And then once we feel like the dog is ready for deployment, Kara's going to be moving to the crime prevention unit and then it'll be a little bit more free to have specialized events. And then, of course, Nicole is also able to take the dog around. So thank you very much. I wanted to show you what was going on in some of our strategic goals in a more realistic fashion. So,
Man.
all
Thank
right,
you so
thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
I feel like we
Thank
all
you.
want to clap.
Welcome
All
on.
right. Next, we have public comment. I believe we have at least one today. If you come forward. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll go. I know, I think there was someone else too, but if, I guess I'll go. My name's Alex. I am here because I heard that someone else was gonna be here too, talking about the paratransit bus system. So let me stand up.
Mr.
You need a
Dykeisen,
hand?
could you, Mr. Dykeisen, can you adjust the microphone eventually?
Yes, take it there.
A little
If-
short, so.
yeah.
Okay. I'm good, yeah. Okay, so I'm here because I heard that someone else was gonna be here talking about the paratransit bus system, Metrolink. And so I just had some concerns with that and I wasn't sure who to talk to and I figured, well, this might be a good place. So, so I don't know if anybody's aware, but when you schedule a ride through, that's for people with disabilities. And you have to schedule 2 weeks ahead, and so, and of course they, it's based on, driver availability, of course, and they're short-staffed right now like everywhere else. And, it's just really hard for me to get to work, and sometimes, fortunately, right now, I'm still, working primarily remotely, but when I do start working full-time, it's gonna be a barrier for me. And I know it is a barrier for other people that I help. I help people with disabilities to find jobs. I work for the Illinois Division of Rehabilitation Services, and so I do tell them about the service as a resource for them to get to and from. But one thing I do mention is that that 2 week window that they have to schedule ahead. So I always let them know no emergencies. So you really have to plan ahead. And I guess one of the other concerns I had too was they have you pay in cash, so there's no electronic system to use. Like like swiping a card, like they have in the general bus system. So I have to get a ride to the bank. Fortunately, I know a lot of people that can give me a ride, but other people may not. So those are two big barriers that I was wondering if maybe we can come up with some solutions to address. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you tell us your name one more time?
Sure. My name is Alexander Fireman.
Got it.
Fireman.
Got it. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
We'll be sure to follow up.
Thanks, Alex.
Next, public comment.
Never had that. I didn't know we had that.
Yep, come on up.
I'm not. Anyway,
You have about 3 minutes. We have a little
Okay,
countdown
good.
clock up there.
my name's Peter McDermott. I know a lot of you guys here. I've been around town for a long time. And I've been a general contractor for this is my 45th year as a general contractor. I tell people I don't wanna quit now, I'm just getting good. But anyway, so I live downtown Moline, I live next door to, there's some, graphics, I guess, I don't know if you can put them up.
Yep.
But, okay, that's one, okay, well, that's a little tough, but anyway, so I live right down by O'Keefe's Tavern, and, anyway, so I'm a guy, I like to have a good time, and I like people to have fun in life, I'm all for it, but it is the Wild West down there, and I'm just here to tell you that I want to, in person, tell you what the experience is like. I love living downtown. I've enjoyed it. I bought a place in 2009. I live upstairs. There's a beauty shop on the first floor, and then I have my office on the first floor. And I've really, for the great majority of the time, enjoyed it very much. A beautiful view of we have nice, John Deere Commons and all this. It's very nice. But the O'Keefe's it's like crazy. And I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, they got permission to have outdoor music at a outdoor venue. I don't know how you go about getting that permit, and I don't know who they asked. I mean, who permits people to do that? And do they ask any questions? I mean, like, I nobody asked me as a neighbor if that's okay. So they have music, and then this is not just a weekend problem. Down there, they have music, especially in the summer. It's all summer long, most nights. There's karaoke, there's, they bring their own music. Back in the Octagon part of the O'Keefe's there, they open up this garage door and they play music, and they play it, they're just till 3 o'clock in the morning. They're out there like playing, the bags, and that's the mild part. And then they get in cars, they have some cars parked back there, and for some reason, whatever they're doing, they get in their cars, some people, and then they get back out of their car and go back to drinking beer or whatever they're doing. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but, it's not, we want nice urban living downtown, and, we all want, we want growth and urban living, but to me, there should be maybe a little more policing, a little more, it's like, there's no supervision outside there when there's people and it fills up, there's no supervision, and then there's like, they can just kind of do everything they want.
I'm
I would
so sorry. If you want to wrap it up, we
Sure.
hit the 3-minute mark, but
Sure, okay, so I guess I'd just say, I would recommend possibly some kind of a commission for downtown that has some, authority to make better decisions on it.
thank you very much, Mr.
Thanks.
McDermott. Anybody else for public comment this evening? Hearing none, do we have any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, we move to our COW agenda item, 6.1, proposed amendment to chapter 14, food and food handlers of the Moline Code of Ordinances. Legal staff.
Thank you, Mayor. So before you is, as we presented previously, Chapter 14, which has been updated substantially. This was to conform with current regulations and current statutes, public health department requirements, etc., which had not been done for quite a while. We have had pretty substantial email exchanges, primarily with Alderman Went, on questions and answers here. We also have Alex Morris, who is the food inspector, although I know that's not actually your title. And I apologize for that. But we present this amended chapter 14 for your consideration.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Alderperson Went, seconded by Waldron. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Went?
Well, one, thank you very much for all your answers and how things, there's a lot in here where the answers aren't in our code, but it's referenced to the FDA and those sorts of things. So I appreciate you explaining all those things. The one thing that I just want to make sure that we're clear, well, actually, two things. One is, while our ordinance doesn't mention volunteers or anything, that because the FDA says that any volunteers, they are exempt from any of this training. Because my concern is, if you read our ordinance the way that it's read without knowing the outside material, it basically says anybody who handles anything has got to do this training. And I didn't want a situation where like Little League couldn't get volunteers to come in and do that. And so I appreciate that. And I guess for me, I would think that we should probably put in there that says, hey, volunteers are exempt, so that somebody who's reading through it doesn't. but if you're communicating that, then I guess then that's fine. The other thing is, and I know you wrote me back, but I want to get a clear understanding. So in the fee schedule, it says public schools, 0, like there's no cost to them. But then down below, it says any and all schools shall not pay a fee. So I guess I'm still trying to understand why above it says only public schools, but then down below it says any and all schools. And then how that relates to churches and those sorts of things, but.
Do you want to come to
Yeah.
the microphone?
So then you go to B right
And
underneath it.
while Alex gets
And in all
situated, I might add that there is an exemption for public schools, right, Alex? And,
Yes, yeah.
right, which is, and we believe because they're part of the, public service, they're public entities.
Yeah, and that was my understanding, like that part was existing in the previous ordinance. But referring to the part where you have below the fees where it says any and all schools serving on a temporary basis shall be issued a license, but shall pay no fee. So that's mainly regarding your events like a summer food program that isn't considered a part of the annual license. So you'll have a handful of schools over the summer that they have people use their kitchens, but I won't. This is stating that they don't have to get an additional license in order to use that licensed kitchen.
So a place like Quad City Christian or Seton or whatever, what do they pay? Under what are?
Their current one is, under the previous for square footage is what they're paying. So they pay a fee for their annual license. I don't believe they have a summer food program, so, but if they did, then they wouldn't have to pay an additional fee because their kitchen's already licensed.
Yes, Ms. Kostopoulos.
So we did not change the fee structure. Of course, as a council, you are, of course, you can do that. This was this update was merely to conform to current regulations and laws. So you can certainly exempt all schools if you want from a fee.
Thank you.
No,
Other follow-up question?
yeah, I'll make a motion to exempt all schools.
Second.
A motion by Alderperson Went, seconded by Alderperson Williams. Discussion.
Wait, sure, okay. Clearly, I want them to follow all the rules, but I think it makes sense just to exempt them.
Mr. O'Brien?
And this is Dad's Club days, and I know Dad's Club, I think it's the facility where the food is prepared, like pork chops and brats, like Dad's Club, you go in and you have a fundraiser. And it's generally, they have the rules posted they have to be posted on the wall, correct? And there's usually somebody there that's had the training. But and I'm going back a few years to my Dad's Club days, but I think it's to the facility that the food's being prepared at, right? Is that correct?
As far as the licensing?
Yeah,
Yeah, the facility's being licensed, and then for, depending on what category of risk that it falls under, you have to have, as far as the people that are there that are trained, you have to have at least one food manager present, and then anyone else who is paid and not a volunteer. If you're handling food, you have to have your food handlers training.
okay, thanks. And one other follow-up question about the food trucks. Have you noticed that those are on the rise? Are we getting more food trucks, or is it just a few of them, or?
I've been here for a total like one license year, and I will say last year whenever I was here, I did license a decent amount of new ones.
So there's more coming, probably.
Yeah, most of the time, right around, because all the licenses renew in April, or at the end of April, so a lot of times I'll get people within that spring time frame of where they'll come and get licensed. So we'll see, but
Okay.
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, all right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Mr. Schmidt?
I think it's a misappropriation of public funds to waive fees for the private schools. I'm a graduate of private school, and I think it is every parent's right to send them there. But I don't think it's the responsibility of us taxpayers to carry that burden for people who've made that elective choice for themselves. So I'll be voting no.
Anything further on this amendment?
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Ms.
I would ask that, when you make an amendment to an ordinance, if you could state the section, that would be really helpful for us.
Then I'll just say, under the fee schedule, strike only public schools. How about that?
Do you want me to do any sort of amending the motion with that, or is that a Scrivener issue?
It's just a clarification of what we're trying to.
Okay, just checking.
It's, yeah, Scrivener.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, we're going to a roll call. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Nay.
Schmidt,
Nay.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Nay.
5 ayes, 3 nays,
All right, that
and that
motion,
motion passes.
thank you. So we're back to the item itself. Anything further? All right, hearing none, all in favor, as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, that passes 7-1. Thank you. 6.2, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a contract with AGM Environmental LLC for the 2022 waste removal project for city-owned properties that include the former McKinley School and former Manual Arts Building in the amount of $66,577.10, and approving an additional contingency up to 10% of the contract amount. Mr. Vitas?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, thank you, council. As you know, back in early 22, we were successfully able to acquire both the McKinley School and the Manual Arts Building as a part of a long-standing legal process that we had with the former owner. In order for the city to move forward with these properties, it is necessary that we do have the contents removed and debris removed, as well as other less desirable things that are in the building that need to be removed in order to be able to assess them and then to introduce them to the development community for potential development purposes or redevelopment purposes. So we're recommending approval as requested in the amount of $66,577.10. And then at 10% contingency, because we don't know what we're going to find once we start to dig deeper into the piles to remove the debris.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson O'Brien, seconded by Alderperson Moyer. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you.
Yep, we're moved to our informational. Mr. Griffith?
Thank you. So this kind of came up during the budget discussions in October, so I'm bringing it back now. Sorry, it's been a few months. So Parks and Recreation took over as being the liaison of SSA 5 back in September, and with speaking with the board of SSA 5 and their goal setting, the number one goal for them is a restroom down at Bass Street Landing, and I believe that several city council members have asked about it, and as we know, especially during the concert series on Thursday nights, that there's quite a bit of people down there. And the portable restrooms that are down there are just not enough, along with, you know, one of the bars down there as well. So several discussions with Bob and Barry and the SSA 5 committee. We looked at maybe just increasing the amount of portable restrooms. We looked at the possibility of renting a restroom trailer like they do for like a RAGBRAI or a very large event. It's like a camper, and researched that and seen how much it would cost to rent, how much it would cost to buy, and really what came down to what the board and my recommendation was an actual restroom down there that could be open basically 24/7 like our park restrooms are during the spring to fall months. And some of this information, the cost of it, as you can see, there's 3 different companies there. I would make the recommendation, the one that's highlighted in blue, and you can kind of see the cost of it is just under about $277,000. The location that we're looking to put it, as you're staring at the Bass Street Landing stage, it's kind of out of the way. You're not going to be staring at a restroom when you're listening to concerts, or if it's a wedding venue or an event, something like that. It's kind of out of the way, so you're noticing the actual stage and what's going on, and not paying attention to people in line. Now, where that's located on the map is just a rough idea. Okay, that is me putting, a square and a wannabe sidewalk on a picture in Microsoft Word. During this process, I'll work with engineering and the GET architects to make sure that it's facing the right way, it's still on city property. It will make sure it works with any improvements that happen to the Arsenal Bridge, because there are possibility of some upgrades there. But from what I pictured, that's what I came up with. This also falls under tip number 5, which in that graph you can see there is some money starting last year and continues to grow throughout the till 2033, and there's quite a bit of money still, or quite a bit of money projected in there. Now, as you can see, we're projecting the project to be about $277,000, and the anticipated reserves of SSA 5 is just over $276,000. The reason why the board would like the city council to consider to pay 50% from the reserves and 50% from the TIF is we have several other projects that we're looking at to do down there. And a playground was discussed, but that's pretty low on the priority list. But we've got the strands of light that crosses the area where people stand and listen to music. Those are not, they're not commercial grade. They're something that you could buy at like Amazon or Target, and we replace a lot of those lights every single year. And there's also concrete pillars that have lights in them that are falling apart. And so that's a pretty major, we're gonna be working on a lighting study to make sure that it's going to fit our needs for the future. Because as we know, especially with us taking over in the last couple of months, I realize how many people want to use that for a wedding venue, along with the 6 or 7 special events. So it's not just a Thursday night concert series. This would benefit a lot that's going down there. And I think the biggest turnoff of this location when someone calls about a wedding is saying you have to provide your own portable restrooms. I think this location also would benefit the bike trail as well. That people crossing along the river and then cutting through Bass Street Landing, I think is a great location for it as well. So that's why I wanted to bring it back as an informational, see what everyone thought, and then see how you would like to proceed. So.
Thank you so much. Mr. Moyer.
Yeah, thank you. Were there 6 porta potties though for those concerts? How many? You remember how many there were?
I thought there was only
I don't think there were
2 or 4.
Yeah.
4?
Yeah.
So you think 6 is enough? 6, 3 male, 3 female?
The 3 and 3, you can get roughly 450 visits per hour. I don't see how that is correct, but that's what I've read. It's 2 urinals and 1 ADA accessible toilet. I think it would definitely help alleviate some of the lines down there, but it's not
a person.
Not going to be.
Miller Lite.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Went?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for chatting earlier today, because my concern, and I think you addressed it, was we're also applying for this grant of this letdown, and I just don't want a situation where we wind up putting it someplace and then it causes problems with that. But you talking about the TIF and, you know, I'm always thinking what's TIF eligible and what's not and everything. But also weddings and those sorts of things. The one you chose here, I think, is probably the economically, based on this versus the Dakota or whatever. But if I remember right, now it's much more expensive. The other public restroom company was that one looked a lot.
Yeah, so the public
Better, right?
restroom one is the 325,000. It's got a slanted roof. You know, it looks more, not necessarily like a park restroom. It looks more like a fancier building, I would say.
I guess from my standpoint, seeing what the TIF projections are, I tend to maybe lean towards spending a little bit more on this, making it really nice. I mean, if this is a place that we're trying to drive track it, we've got thousands of people visiting Moline every Thursday night. I think having something that it does cost a little bit more, but if it's coming out of that TIF, which can afford it from the projections, I think is something we should really consider.
I see your hand, 1 second. Along those lines, you know, we talk a lot about getting things up and going, but then we forget, some people, some organizations can forget about the upkeep costs. With a cheaper option, do we run into the risk of having higher upkeep costs than if we spent the money up front for something more?
No, these prefab restrooms are
indestructible.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, inside, none of them are anything special. It's going to be stainless steel sinks, toilets. There's not going to be mirrors in them because at the end of the day, if someone takes a sledgehammer, there's less damage to a stainless steel one than a porcelain one.
Got it.
Same with mirrors. The one that he's talking about, it's strictly what it looks like on the outside.
Aesthetics.
Everything is pretty much the same. Yeah, aesthetics, pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams?
Other than the aesthetics, is on the inside, can you grow it as far as more stalls? Because I would think that, you know, we would need, although you can maybe move that many people through, it seems one always gets clogged up and there's water on the floor. There's always something, especially, you know, we're gonna get one shot at it. You know, it should look nice and maybe more is better than less.
I think with the space that we're dealt with down there, you might be able to put one on the other side of Bass Street, on the other, you know, the left-hand side, if you're staring at the stage left. So you'd have two different locations, but with that strip being pretty, and it's only a small footprint, it's 20 by 26, so it's a relatively small structure, but with, you know, with the possibility of adding onto the Arsenal Bridge there, I don't think there's really any room to grow and put another location there. That's why when we're looking at it, I gave a price for the Dakota, which is 2 and 2. I just figured if we're gonna spend the money, you might as well spend and get the 2 extra restrooms and try to get as big as you can. But I just don't see a bigger one fitting there or adding on to it.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, when we look at like our bigger events, like the concert series, would we still need to bring porta potties down, or do we think that would alleviate that in total? Or is it kind of we're gonna have to wait and see, and we could be doing that? But for a wedding, you wouldn't necessarily now need to bring porta potties. Like it would, smaller events would be fine.
Yeah.
Bigger ones might still need one.
I would think that by adding this restroom, you probably take care of 85% of what you do. It's just unfortunately, there's probably still gonna be a line at the bar, people trying to, you know, to use the restroom and get a drink and whatnot. But I mean, I don't think by adding this restroom that you're not preventing, people aren't gonna not go because of the restroom situation. I think they're going, and yeah, the restroom, it is what it is kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Waldron?
Thanks, Your Honor. Eric, just be careful too of your utilities. I see these costs don't include water and sewer, and water and sewer down there are tricky.
Yeah, so I've already talked to Tony with utilities, and if this moved forward, they would run the utilities before, you know, Bass Street Landing started. The restroom would not be ready for this concert season. It'd probably be later in the fall, but they would be able to do it now before everything really gets going there. And so, it'd be more just the cost of materials and not staff time. So I think that helps with cutting down on the cost as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vitas?
Yeah, just to add to Alderman Wendt's comment, the difference would be, assuming the SSA board remains just using their reserve as planned, the 138. If you were to go with the public restroom company that was referred to, our cost would go from 138 to 297. So that's what we're talking about in terms of change, or money, serious money.
Mr. Wynn?
But the TIF would still, even with that payout,
Yeah, 500.
would still be
correct.
Flush.
It'd still be flush. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's.
Any further questions? Thank you, we'll look forward to us coming through.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we move to our regular council meeting. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, is there an invocation, Mr. Moore? All right, so we move to roll call, please.
Alderperson Williams,
Present.
Macias,
Present.
Went,
present.
Timian,
Present?
Moyer,
Present.
O'Brien,
Present.
Waldron,
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Your Honor, I request approval of Committee of the Whole and Council meeting minutes of January 17th, 2023. Resolutions. Council Bill 1013-2023, a resolution amending the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Child Care Workforce Infrastructure Forgivable Loan Program to exempt not-for-profit child care centers from the personal guarantee requirement. Council Bill 1014-2023, a resolution approving a sole source agreement with Hive Consulting for Moline 151 Celebration Consulting Services for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Council Bill number 1015-2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to an agreement with Express Services Incorporated, doing business as Express Employment Professionals, for temporary and seasonal staffing services beginning March 1st, 2023 through February 28th, 2025. Council Bill number 1016-2023, a resolution authorizing Corporation Council to execute a contract with Kimball Complete Care Incorporated with vegetation and nuisance abatement services for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
All right, we have a motion by Alderperson O'Brien, seconded then by Mr. Timian. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes.
Okay.
Non-consent agenda, second reading ordinances. Council Bill number 3002-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Garbage and Trash of the Moline Code of Ordinances by enacting one new Article 5, Pollution Control Facility Siting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Waldron, seconded by Alderperson Moyer. Discussion. Mr. Wynn.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, went through, and David, thank you very much for answering some of the questions. Going through and looking at, I'm assuming all those errors and stuff were all corrected on there. One of the things that I've got some concern on in here, and I guess maybe you get your thought on this is, oh, sorry about that. Is whether we're preempted from within this ordinance saying we don't want trash incinerators in Moline or hazardous waste site within the municipal boundaries of Moline. Is that something that we can either take out or change to say are not allowed? How does that work?
We could do that, and as I explained, Alderman Wendt, in my responses to the questions that were presented, the ordinance is just written in the broadest terms to account for any possibility. But if the council wanted to direct that the ordinance make a specific prohibition on those types of waste facility uses, then we could do that. It's also something you should double check through your zoning, just to make sure the two complement one another.
Thank you. And keep in mind, we have the two comment thing, or two question thing here in council, regular council meetings. In code, we have 2 times to talk on the same
I'm going to make an amendment.
That's
which
fine.
isn't-
Yes, I just was giving you a reminder. Go ahead, Mr. Wendt.
So I'd like to make an amendment that we strike any statement regarding the ability for incineration or hazardous waste from the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Alderperson Wendt, seconded by Alderperson Schmidt. Discussion. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense to pull back a little bit on some of these, but I did want to make sure that for the immediate agreement we are looking at, incineration is not a part of that. That is not causing any issues. I did want to make sure and have a larger conversation if necessary, but since it's not, for sure, very good.
Mr. Waldron. Yes.
I don't have any issue with the incineration. More of a problem for me is the hazardous waste. We take household hazardous waste over to Scott County right now. LRS has volunteered to host some hazardous waste, household hazardous waste receival at their facility. So I'm reluctant to just say that's included in with the incineration.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Wendt.
And I guess to that point, I think that is very good. And so I guess maybe what we should do is the hazardous waste, that it should be limited only to a transfer of less than 24 hours or 48 hours or something like that. Would you guys mind answering, like, how long is that?
You probably should.
Yes, please come to the microphone.
Yeah. Let's have all 3 of them just come up to the mic so that we can get through it.
Since I help, good evening, Mayor and Alderman. Walter Willis. So the intent of the ordinance.
Could you introduce KJ as well, because he hasn't been
KJ,
introduced.
Why we drafted it as we did as staff was typically when you do a siting ordinance, you do it for all pollution control facilities. We weren't inviting hazardous waste facilities or incinerators. This is not a hazardous waste facility, so we don't even have, if we pull the hazardous waste component out of the ordinance, it won't impact their facility, which is a garbage transfer station. They will not get a permit to accept hazardous waste. In fact, they'll have to document that they're not going to, and if they do get it, how they're gonna manage it. So we can pull that out as you're suggesting, and it won't impact it. It'd just be a standalone ordinance for citing garbage transfer stations and nothing else.
Mr. Wendt.
Yeah, so to Alderman Waldron's question of that you guys will take,
Household hazardous collection.
that's a different category than what we're talking about.
That's just to use the site for that one day. It would be on-site, off-site, at the end of the event, they truck it away.
Yeah, I think that was the intent, that we want to take the citing of a hazardous waste out of the ordinance and the incineration.
You want the household hazardous,
Yeah.
for people to, it's a service to the community.
So to be clear, so the council understands what they're voting on in this amendment, the way your policies are written up, if I recall from last week, is that anything brought there would only be there for 24 hours anyway. Or less, right. So that alleviates his concern with this particular thing. Okay, got it. Thank you. Anything further on this amendment? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Wendt,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. The amendment passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're back to the ordinance itself. Anything further from the council? Mr. O'Brien?
I just like, the question that's brought to me, the landfill that the refuse will be taken to, is that one landfill, or are you leaving it open to go to more than one landfill?
Hang on, is that part of this ordinance?
The host
For
agreement.
citing, that would be
Oh,
a
that's,
host
okay, that's
agreement.
all right, next question.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes.
Okay. An ordinance approving a community host agreement by and between the City of Moline and Lakeshore Recycling LLC. And anyway, that's it. I'll follow up.
Motion
I have an
approved.
idea.
Second.
Sorry. Who was that? Motion was Mr. Moyer and seconded by Alderperson Waldron. And before we get started with any discussion, Ms. Gustavus, could you please explain for the council how this works with the updates from last week and going into any further updates we might have tonight? Because there's some confusion and some pieces of information missing, and we just want to be clear for the council, so
Sure.
when they go to vote, that they're secure.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, as you recall, last week you actually made a motion which passed to include in the agreement a minimum property tax. In addition to that, you made several other, well, you had discussion about other suggestions. So in the 7 days since we had that meeting, we, along with Walt and LRS, had discussion about that. We reached agreement on updated language on many of those issues. Only yesterday did we get a response from LRS on the tax payment. So we did not provide an updated document because we were in process of working out these updated provisions. So while we apologize certainly for any delay in getting that document to you and to the public for not having that, the new document contains new provisions which were all part of discussion last week, so no surprises. And of course, we didn't want to bring back any document that had provisions which were not in agreement with the company. So that's really why there was delay and why you did not have an updated agreement in a more timely fashion. David, do you want to add anything?
No, I think Margaret's explanation is exactly how this rolled out. We did have discussions last week with LRS. We arrived at a final version of the document. Again, as Margaret said, we apologize for not having it to you sooner. However, the revisions that have been made that are reflected in the document, and there is a revised version, but I do think it's a clean line that was at your desks this evening, are the changes that were discussed. I don't know if there were formal votes, and I think there was only one vote on the minimum property tax issue. But LRS indicated that they were agreeable to the changes that are in here. And I can go through those if you'd like.
I think we should
For the
hear.
record.
Yes, for the
Okay.
record,
That's
we
fine.
should hear that, thank you. And then I do want you to provide, like, going forward, what we can expect, because obviously, we need to make sure LRS is okay with anything that could be brought up tonight.
Okay, so this is the host agreement, and if you have it, the first section you need to go to is section 4. My copy is going to be a little bit different on page numbering probably than yours, so that's page 5 in mine. Because I'm actually looking at the red line. Okay, so we've slightly changed, we've added something to the title of this paragraph. So right now, it says authorized waste, then we added a semicolon, transfer station facility use. All the text under that remained the same, except we added the following language. The transfer station facility will not be used to process any waste for incineration or energy recovery. And I believe, okay, so is everyone okay with that one?
We
Okay.
understand, yes.
Okay. Give me a minute. Okay. Under subsection 10B of the host agreement, storage, on mine it's page 11, it might be page 10 on yours. We added, kind of about midway down in that paragraph, it reads, waste may be kept temporarily outside in transferred trailers, and we added the following language, or roll-off dumpsters. And then all the rest of the language remains the same, which are tarp covered for not more than 24 hours. And this ties into the next sentence that talked about roll-off dumpsters. So that's just closing the loop on that. Okay, so going down to 10F, traffic. Everything remains the same in here, except we removed the last sentence that read, the company will, prior to approval of this agreement, provide the city with a fully signed copy of its, quote, road agreement with the airport authority that, among other things, details road improvements and maintenance programs to ensure unimpeded and safe access to the Quad Cities Airport. The reason why this was removed is because LRS has already has in their lease has provisions that address this, so it's not going to be a separate document. It's the lease document, and I don't know if KJ you want to address that at all.
Please.
Maybe the extent of it.
Right. So what we agreed to from our location to the main
Oh,
street.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
KJ, you know, I think we wanted you to introduce yourself last time.
Hi, my name is KJ Lura. I'm with LRS. I'm the Vice President of Business Development. I work a lot of special products throughout the entire Midwest. I came to LRS 6 years ago through an acquisition. I ran the largest construction demolition recycling facility in all of DuPage County for many years, for 25 years. I have been in the waste hauling industry, started off in the back of a garbage truck at the age of 16. So I have about 35 years experience in it. So I understand this industry really well, but I'm excited. Throughout the state of Illinois, I'm currently involved in 5 projects just like this. And so I'm very familiar with this and am ready to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Regarding the road improvements with the airport, we have full responsibility. In fact, there's very strong language in there for the airport to, at their discretion, can tell us to trigger any points for repairs. We must keep it in strong repair. I think you guys will be fairly happy with how robust the language is on that. So it gives a lot of discretion to the authority to be able to trigger any repairs. And so we've committed to that.
Thank you, KJ. And so the lease will be an exhibit to the host agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Went.
Yeah, in the future, this is a bugaboo, like, these are exhibits that's part of the agreement. We never get them. Half the time, they're never published. We're not, I mean, it does say something in there that it would be redacted with the financials, and, which is absolutely 100% appropriate, but it should be something because it does affect this, because I still, I mean, I trust you guys and there's strong language about this, but I still do have some concerns regarding the traffic thing. Now, we'll have the second bite of the apple at the application citing phase. But I think us being provided that would be really helpful. And also red line versions so that we can review things quickly would be
Understood, absolutely. Okay, so going down to subparagraph 10I, this has to do with the amount of tonnage that'll go through the station on an annual basis. It's capped at 150,000 tons. And we added language that says, the next sentence begins, this amount may only be exceeded with, and we added approval by city council by ordinance duly adopted. So they will have to come, LRS will have to come here, present the reasons why they want to increase the tonnage on an annualized basis. You can approve it or reject it by ordinance.
Okay.
Or at that time, you could put other requirements to allow for the excess.
Yes. Making sure I'm not missing anything. I think that was it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So before we continue our discussion, do you have something further, Mr. Silverman?
Yeah, I did want to address one thing, and it was in the email that I sent to City Council today, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, and it has to do with the property tax, the minimum property tax payment. LRS did present a proposal to us that was in the email. We did not incorporate it in here because we hadn't had a chance to discuss it here. So I just don't want to lose sight of that, but that was certainly something that LRS responded to and gave what we thought was a reasonable proposal, but certainly subject to city council approval.
Okay. Mr. Went?
So, because we've already made a motion.
Yeah,
to approve
now
it.
we're discussing.
Okay, so I guess what I would like to make an amendment that says, because I'm in favor of this, but want to put in a contingency that this agreement is contingent upon a subsequent agreement being executed within 45 days in which we resolve the property tax issue, which will come back to council for approval.
Second.
Okay. I have that written down. You have that written down? All right. Well, that's a motion by Alderperson Went, seconded by Alderperson Schmidt. Discussion.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this, want to move it forward, don't want you guys to know we are moving forward, but I do think that this needs to get resolved. I don't want to table this so that there's some, whether it's going to happen or not, so, but I do think that this is something we need to lock down and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Vivas.
just a question on that amendment. Was it 45 days that you referenced?
No more than 45 days.
No more. Can I ask a question of Walt? Given the timeline that we're moving on, and given the requirements in terms of when we go on radio silence, I don't want to have the 45th day interfere with that schedule.
KJ looks like he wants to talk too.
I'm okay if you bring it back next time.
I'd like to bring it back as soon as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
So it was my fault, some of the lack of discussion over the tax situation, timeframe, because I was out of the country last week. That's why I was not here. I apologize for that part. Upon me landing and having a conversation, we quickly made some calls to real estate folks and just got some broad brush general parameters, basically, because we're comparing a vacant piece of property which has no zero tax and all that. Our goal here is to be a member paying real estate taxes at a fair rate. And we came up, I mean, just candidly, we came up with 125,000 to start, and then within the three, just like on new construction projects, you get 3 years, tax assessment comes, and then it goes up to that, whatever that rate is, and all that, just like it normally would through any process. So we're happy to talk. I mean, like, if that's not the right number, let's just do something that's fair, that makes sense for all of you. And this will not take 45 days. We can probably solve this tomorrow. But, I mean, we just have to find an answer. I mean, you'll find it. We're just trying to make something that makes reasonable sense with the way property taxes are handled in general.
And can I clarify, that's business days? Or 45
No,
days? No, calendar days.
I'm hoping that on February 7th,
Next
it's on the
week.
agenda.
February 7th.
That's my hope, but I didn't want to lock you guys in if something happens and it bleeds over to the 14th or the 21st.
So the only requirement I'm aware of, Bob,
regarding would it mess up the timing of the project,
Right.
is that if there is a host agreement between the applicant and the governing body, yourselves, it needs to be in the siting application. So if it's contingent, I don't know if we have to wait for it or not, but I think the idea is to move ahead. I don't think it'll slow things down if we move ahead next meeting.
So our goal is to bring it back.
We have 2 weeks, just so you know. It'd be February 7th would be the next time.
It'll be.
Okay, so there is an amendment on the floor that the minimum property tax issue is contingent on subsequent agreement where the property tax issue comes back no more than 45 days from now.
That the agreement with them is
Yes,
contingent
the agreement
upon
is contingent
us
upon that.
entering into a subsequent agreement regarding the
The
property
property
tax,
Is everyone clear?
hopefully by the 7th.
Got it. If there's nothing else, roll call please on that amendment.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian,
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
Okay, that amendment passes. We're back to the, where we were at with discussion, but also just I had asked for that overview of what happens now, you know, seeing as we have subsequent agreements happening, we'll be continuing to talk. Can you clarify for the council the process?
So, the amendment that just passed will not impede council from approving or, voting, taking a final vote on the agreement tonight. We would then bring back, maybe, you might call it a side letter or an addendum or something, which you would vote on at that time.
Okay, thank you. So further discussion on the amendment.
I just had a
Mr.
question about the landfills. Well, in the document, are you leaning towards, you want to travel the least amount of distance to a landfill? And will you be like hard and fast on one particular landfill? Or if you have overflow, will you take it to different landfills or?
So the best way, from a free market, I will tell you this standpoint very specifically. We are open to taking it to, the nice beautiful part about a transfer station is it can go to any landfill that it makes the most sense. So whoever's the most competitively priced, if it's my own landfill, yes. If it's someone else's landfill, we're open to that as well. So it is not, just because you own a transfer station does not preclude you from using other infrastructure. And that's the beauty of it. It brings a competitive nature to the community that allows competitive rates that the residents benefit and the business owners all benefit in the community. And that adds up and Walter could probably talk to this better than I can, but when you see environments throughout the state of Illinois where there's not a competitive environment, you see rates that are triple, quadruple than this area. And that's the beautiful part about a transfer station. It's just not a landfill that's fixed. This gives people an avenue to bring it to. And then wherever the market shifts and free market allows it to be very competitive.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of conversation from companies already in the market, our neighborhood, our neighboring cities, and concerns about bringing it in. But I tend to agree that this is something that we come to the free market, and we've made efforts and an allowance for ensuring that we are contributing and working with RICMA to ensure that they will remain whole. And one group that I think I want to make sure we are securing and keeping whole is also ensuring that workers are going to be whole.
Yes.
And with a free market change, there could be layoffs or people who come over to the facility, and I think I want to see a facility that's going to be strong and offer a little bit of preference to those workers, ensure they maintain the same type of wages and benefits they've always had.
So you're talking to a person who, when I had my own private business before I sold it to Lakeshore, that actually reached out to the union and voluntarily joined it, because I realized that we need to offer drivers competitive wages, good health care, and all of that. We probably have seen it during COVID more than any other time, that in that part of our workforce has received larger wages. I will give you a for instance. The majority of our employees in the state of Illinois are union drivers. And when you look at some of the healthcare, now this is also in DuPage Cook County area.
Yeah.
I will preface it by saying that. But I never thought that I would see a total compensation package with health, welfare, and pension that is equaling close to $150,000 for drivers. So a garbage truck driver is not an underpaid position. Just as a, not to waste your time, but to give you a perspective of what's happening in their industry. When I met with our CEO, and I talked to him about 2 years ago, I said to him, I said, you're not seeing any people leave the industry from the union side, you're seeing it in the non-union side. So Lakeshore actually has rolled out this year a pension program, not just a 401k, but a pension program to keep longevity similar to what the unions have. So even our non-union employees in the state of Illinois have that as well. So I think you'll find that that is one part that they're very well compensated. People would probably be shocked by that.
And would welcome any additional comments. I'm going to propose an amendment and open to your conversation after that as well. But in discussions, I think this will be the cleanest way to bring it forward as part of our process. So I make a motion to add the following to the host agreement as section 11 and to renumber sections accordingly. Union neutrality. The company shall maintain a neutral position in any organizing or election campaign undertaken by a union. No owners, supervisors, managers, or agents of the company will take a position in opposition to representation by a union or engage in any conduct designed to oppose or undermine a union's efforts.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Schmidt, seconded by Alderperson Timian. Discussion.
So in the state of Illinois, Lakeshore was probably the largest privately held company that mobilized non-union members to join the union over the past 2-3 years.
Thank you.
So, I mean,
So you don't have any problem with it then?
no.
Thank you. All
I
right.
will also add, it's the law.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I mean,
The closed shop state.
Thank you.
we need to attract people in our industry to stay as long-term employees. And so we have to offer very competitive wages, whether it's not union or non-union. And I can emphasize there are areas out of state in Minnesota that actually we have union members who are underperforming and the union contract does not allow us to meet what the private sector has. So in some instances, we've had to surpass the union contract to keep the drivers. So this industry is, just because of the short supply of drivers, is naturally creating this.
Thank you.
So.
All right, hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Nay.
Macias,
Aye.
Wen,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay, and that amendment passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Wentz.
A question maybe for Mr. Doi. Can you help us understand how this will affect our drivers and distance our trucks drive and those sorts of things? I think that might be good to have out on the public record.
Please come forward.
We currently have contracts with our landfills and how that happens at the expiration of those. We would have the option of continuing with those or moving with LRS.
Do you know when those contracts are until?
Oh, that
I
Mr.
have them
Vitas.
with me. Let me look that up for you.
Okay.
Just so that everybody knows what's happening right now. Our trucks, they pick the stuff up and they drive all the way to the landfill right now, right? And
Correct.
where do we drop them off at right now?
All right.
We'll get to that in a minute.
So, we have one agreement that was entered into back in 2020, actually. It was passed in December, approved January 5th of 2020. And this is with Millennium Waste Incorporated. And that agreement runs until December 31st of 2025. Okay? We also have an agreement with the Upper Rock Island County Landfill, in parentheses, Republic Services, that expires December 31st, 2025. And those are the only two agreements that we have. We have no agreements that I'm aware of beyond that at the present time. We have no agreement, for example, with Scott County. We do have, as a member of, I believe, RICMA, we have an agreement as a participant there.
We have an
Maybe
agreement.
Mike, you
Thank
want
you.
to speak?
Mr. Waldron wanted to.
We have an agreement too with Midland for recycling pickup.
There is, yes, and for recycling, which is really not part of the transfer station at all.
But that expires 2028.
2028, correct.
Thank you. Mr. Waldron?
Just for council's knowledge, I've negotiated numerous of these landfill ones, and we have been in all the landfills. Depending upon pricing, we have gone between Republic and we've gone between Millennium. Transportation costs for us are dead on the same. It's the same distance for us to Republic as Millennium. Once the Moline bypass was built, it made it easier for us to get to Millennium, but we have been all over the map on both the landfills.
Thank you. I saw another hand and then I saw Mr. Moyer.
Thank you. I was just gonna clarify the where they're located at question.
Millennium is out on, what's that road?
Knoxville Road.
Knoxville Road.
Knoxville Road.
And upper is, you can see it's between Hampton and East Moline. It's that hill when you're going on Route 5.
Yeah.
You look up and see the little mountain.
Yeah.
That's where upper
With a
is.
couple of tubes sticking
I don't know the address.
Thank you. Mr. Nguyen?
With our agreements with those, is there a requirement of a certain amount of tonnage to each landfill that we have to take? Or that we could, that it's exclusive, or we could take it to a transfer station in the alternative?
Quick look.
Give Mr. Vitas a minute.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that we all understand all the options and.
Okay. Well, there's a 90-day termination clause in probably both agreements, just so you're aware of it. Neither party can serve the other party. The weighing of trucks, fee structures in place, billing, performance, assignment.
So you caught on a real, I just want to make a real quick comment, because the transportation component is always key. So anytime in the trucking business, you can cut down on transportation, but one key factor that's really beneficial about what a transfer station versus landfill is, when you start looking at the cost of going in and out of landfills, because anybody who's been there knows, flat tires, transmissions, you're climbing hills, going through the mud, getting dragged through. And then on a rainy, windy day, garbage is flying everywhere. Whereas this building is 100% enclosed with negative air pressure, filtration system, all this stuff. It becomes a very contained area that they don't get the flat tires, they don't get all the added costs associated with it. So when you're running your own fleet of trucks, anybody who's buying a $500 tire because of a flat tire realizes quickly that adds up to the cost structure. That is one huge benefit to a transfer station as to the landfills.
Thank you
So-
for adding that.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. We don't want to rush you.
No, you won't.
Well, as you're looking at it, maybe I'll
You
finish
definitely won't.
my
Yeah,
comment.
second
Is
comment.
that I think that as we move through this process and assuming that this goes through, that it is something that we should probably have our staff look at and analyze the wear and tear on the trucks, the distance they're driving, those costs, transfer station versus the other, as well as if they're able to drop off and get back to their route faster, is there ability to do the routes faster? All
So
of
you're
those
really
things need
talking
to
like
be-
a cost
It's
benefit
a cost benefit
analysis for
analysis.
us. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we can't do it today, I mean, it's not built, it's down in the road, but it is something that we need to take into consideration.
We will
Okay,
take a
thank
look
you.
at that, especially as it relates to the rates that we're charging for solid waste to our residents.
Well, and that gets into it, I mean, we're talking about 7% increases and all
Exactly.
those different things. If there's a way that we can
Reverse it.
stem that tide, that would be greatly appreciated by me.
We're gonna be working on that,
All
because
right.
that's one of the goals.
Yeah.
So.
So I'm
Mr.
not
Waldron.
finding anything in here that has any tonnage requirements. I didn't expect I would.
No, it's
Mike
too
was-
much in
Yeah.
flux.
Yeah.
You never know, there's no guarantee
Yeah.
on how much tonnage you're gonna take, yard waste. The more remember when we went up to the higher recycling carts, our tipping fees dropped minorly, but it did drop some.
No, I'm not
Our
saying.
solid waste, I meant, excuse me.
Thank you. I think we've answered that question. Do you have, this is comment
Well,
3,
this
so I'm
is
being
a
gracious.
continuation of
Okay.
answering that question.
Mr.
So how do
White.
we make the determination on which place we take it to week, month to month?
in the past?
Yeah, like, how
On
are
the
we-
cost of the landfill, on what the rates were, we negotiate, we put out an
But
RFP.
if we get an agreement with both of them right now that seems to be in effect, how are we, that's where
I don't know the current agreements, but I would, they may be separated for grass versus solid waste. One may be one may be the other, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's
I
various,
believe we're taking our yard waste to Millennium and our solid waste to Republic.
Okay, so that's the
Thank
twice,
you.
okay, that makes.
Thank you
more
for
sense.
clarifying. All right, is there anything further on the agreement?
all good.
Not, then roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us tonight. We look forward to continuing discussions. All right, now we move to,
Resolutions.
yep,
Council Bill 1017-2023, a resolution providing for a feasibility study on the designation of a portion of the city of Moline, known as the IL 92 corridor, as a redevelopment project area and to induce development interest within such area, and authorizing expenditures in the course of planning and redevelopment prior to the redevelopment project area being established that may be reimbursable for future TIF proceeds.
Move to approve.
Second.
motion by Alderperson O'Brien, seconded by Alderperson Williams. Discussion. Mr. O'Brien, are you happy?
Yeah, like I said, I'll take what I can get. I'd like to see this, a bigger, I mean, I know there's an advantage. There must be some kind of advantage to keeping it smaller. Maybe you capture more, the amount of money compresses and you're able to develop more with what you've got. Or, I mean, is there some reason that it's?
Yes, please, Ryan.
Yeah, so we worked with Mike Weber with PGAV, who is kind of shorthandedly known as our TIF consultant in the city. And you are correct that it's a fine line to walk with creating a TIF boundary. You don't want to create one so large that you'll never be able to actually make up for the increment. But you also want to make sure that you're not making it too small that you're missing important development opportunities. And so this was crafted with the idea of this being more of a project-based TIF, with then extending it to some areas nearby that make sense. One of the things, obviously, with a TIF is that we would need to go through and at least work with our taxing entities. They don't necessarily have to approve the formation of a TIF. The Joint Review Board could say, hey, we're not interested in it. And then it would come to council to have to require a supermajority. But at the same time, we do need to make sure that any TIF that we create, we want to make sure that it is financially sustainable. And so that's why we're looking at that. One of the other issues, if you include too many residences, then you have to do a housing impact study under state law. And so we were trying to avoid that as well. We do have Mike Weber on the phone, I believe, who can answer a little bit. Oh, he's right there on video. So he can answer a few more questions about kind of what our thinking was behind it and what kind of best practices are in creating a TIF district boundary. So, Mike, do you want to take it away?
Please, Mike.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. The reason we want to be more focused is based upon experience with TIF districts. 23 years seems like a long time, but we're now discovering, even with TIF 13, the Moline Center TIF, that we're running out of time on doing a potential project there. I agree 100% with Alderman Wentz and O'Brien's opinion that including the triangle that's up by the river is a great redevelopment opportunity. But at this point in time, we don't have a developer that wants to do a project there. And then the other situation we have is we have a manufacturer, an old line manufacturer in the city of Moline, Power Instruments, that has to get something done. Otherwise, they're going to have to relocate. And so it's our recommendation that we focus on the opportunity at hand. If something comes about in the future to where there's development interest there on the riverfront, certainly we ought to explore it. But we need to, in my opinion, try to focus more on projects that are imminent. And just by way of history, when we did TIF 13, the Moline Center TIF, if you look at the boundaries, they're quite gerrymandered. And the reason for that is we were trying to include only those properties for which we thought we had development opportunities. And one of those was the Spiegel building. And now we're 8 or 9 years into the TIF, and we still don't have a project for that Spiegel building. So I'm guessing at some point in the future, if we do get development interest over by the relocated interstate, we're going to wind up having to do a new TIF there again. So it's our recommendation that you try to be a little bit more focused. The proposed TIF deals with the situation with Power Instrument and also includes some property along the 92 corridor for which we might make some improvements. We can tell you from experience that there's a tendency to try and include all the property where you might think there's development interest and it makes sense. And I can tell you that that's true, but unless you've got an investor that's willing to do a project, the TIF could start clicking for too long of a time. And once you finally get real interest, then you're back to square one and probably having to do a new TIF anyway. And that's our recommendation, is to try and be as focused as possible based upon current opportunity. And that's why we scaled the TIF boundary back down from what was originally considered. I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think that
I just have one other question
yes,
for Mr. Weber.
Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Weber, and maybe Ryan can answer this, like with the downtown TIF, and I remember there's probably people here that do remember what our downtown was like before that TIF was instated. It was not a good place nobody wanted to go there. And say we do get this redevelopment for PAR, and it sounds like there might be somebody else coming into this, hopefully, fingers crossed. That breeds more development, right? I mean, initially with these TIFs, if you're on the edge of a TIF, is there a way, I mean, will we have to do a whole new TIF, or could we expand the existing TIF?
Go ahead, Mr. Weber.
Grow the boundaries
Yeah, I
of the
think
TIF.
that's what he alluded to earlier was.
Right. Both options are available. And just to reiterate, with TIF 1, or the downtown TIF, that TIF was established in 1986. And it was a gigantic TIF. It included downtown, the riverfront, all the way to, I think, the eastern boundary of the city. And back then, it was, if we establish it, they will come. At the end of the day, though, the city wound up having to extend the life of that TIF with legislative approval from Springfield. And even 35 years didn't allow us to do everything we really wanted to do in that TIF. And that's why we wound up doing some of these other more focused TIFs, including the one for the Amtrak and hotel, and then later what we call the Moline Center TIF, which is TIF 13, trying to be a bit more focused and trying to figure out what we could get done. And it turns out with TIF 13, we're now presented with a proposal that is a very good proposal to bring some redevelopment and some more housing downtown, market rate housing that is. And we don't have enough life left on this TIF 13 to make the numbers work. With that, again, it's our recommendation to try and be more focused. I agree with the idea that that triangle that was being proposed to be included with our TIF is a great potential redevelopment site, but we don't have anybody lined up to do it. And my worry is if you include that in this current TIF, that we may get 5-10 years down the road before we get development interest, and now the numbers don't work.
Thank you. Anything further on that?
Just one other thing I will mention is that just to keep in mind that with a TIF, your property taxes for within that TIF district are frozen. And so basically the city and all of our taxing entities, basically we're freezing the tax at our current rate for 23 years. So that's something we need to be cognizant of. If we become too large, we then begin to run into issues of where it could begin to affect the budget. So
Thank you. And I want to tell the council too that this issue is coming up statewide, as we saw with the item we pulled 2 weeks ago maybe. But I have had occasion to try to lobby on our behalf to maintain some sort of local control with our state senator, in particular because the person proposing this TIF legislation is in the Senate. And it's very clear to me that Moline showing itself being responsible with our TIF by being very focused and on where we are trying to establish this will be helpful when arguing that we should maintain this ability. And I have also mentioned all kinds of things related to being a border community and all of that. So I just wanted to say that for the record, and also for the record that TIF 13 will come up for discussion at some point.
It's gonna be right on the heels of this.
Thank you. Mr. Waldron, you had something.
Ryan, the northwest angle here reminds me of the northwest angle between Canada and the United States. Is that because of the pumping station that we're trying to catch that?
that is correct. One of the reasons that this TIF was proposed was to assist with some of the flood mitigation in that area, and that is the outlet to the river. And so we needed to include that to be able to recoup those costs within the TIF.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Mr. Went.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and with that explanation, I kind of feel like this is kind of the Goldilocks would presume that it's a good approach. I mean, like the site specific, you would think, okay, we're going to do PAR, maybe we'll do Fear Factory, we'll do Jacobs, and just kind of work our way down and say this is site specific, kind of like what we did Kone. When we developed that was Kone. This was the development, site specific, because we're encapsulating all this other stuff, which some of it seems developable, some of it doesn't. But I mean, I would think that the triangle is probably a much more fruitful place that might get developed than the old Hardee's back in that corner, right? So, I mean, I unfortunately this is on for a final vote tonight. I think maybe talking a little bit more about this, whether you're going to do a big one or you're going to do a very focused one. I think that this, from my standpoint, with background in development and real estate, I don't think hits either mark. So I guess, I'd like to hear what other people say, but then maybe table this to talk more about it and come back.
Anyone else? Further comments? Mr. Vitez?
Mike, if you could explain as well for the council the process by which this would move forward, that as a part of the redevelopment plan and agreement, that these boundaries, of course, are just proposed or preliminary, and that you would have to come back with a redevelopment plan where the final lines had been determined. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So as a part of that process, I think council will have the opportunity at some point to finalize the boundary before it gets approved and goes forward legislatively. So this is preliminary and not final. And I want to stress that because I think, you know, our timeline with PAR Instruments has been running. It's been a real challenge to keep them here in Moline and not flee, as we lost 2 other companies earlier before I even got here. You know, that threat is imminent, and it's there, and it's coming from their board of directors, not from the president. So I want to make sure that we keep the ball moving, and that refinement, I agree, the triangle, we put it there.
Yeah, we want
That is
it there.
ideal condominium development next to, you know, next to the marina, right? Can't beat it. You know, but we don't have a developer for it, but it could be added to the TIF as a part of an amendment down the road as well, once we have somebody. And if you know somebody today, help them call me.
Thank you. Mr. Went.
And to that, I mean, there's nobody that's been pushing this more than I have to get this TIF up and to help PAR and move this for years. So I completely agree with that. But my concern is that we then wind up, they keep costing us more money every time we make a change or whatever. Are you guys just saying, hey, let's do this temporary, no matter how much you change it, we're not gonna charge you any more, no matter what the end result, and you guys move the boundaries down the road, that's not gonna cost us anymore?
Well, hopefully any fees involved with establishing a new TIF or expanding one would be de minimis compared to what the potential investment might be. Again, we go back to when we set up TIF 13, we tried to include only properties where we had development potential, including the Spiegel building. And here we are now having to consider and discuss the possibility of taking property out of TIF 13 and doing a new TIF because time has lapsed.
Okay. Thank you so much. If there's no further questions or comments, roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes. Council Bill number 1018-2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to an agreement with PGAV Planners LLC for professional services to undertake an eligibility study and redevelopment plan for the establishment of a potential TIF district along the IL-92 East Corridor.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Moyer, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, just one clarification on the fiscal component. I know we're saying that's coming from that new TIF fund, but where is that money being transferred in from?
Is that a Carol question? You want to come up to the microphone, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. It would be cash flowed with the general fund would be the recommendation, like what we've done when there's shortfalls in other TIFs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a hand over here? Seeing nothing else, roll call, please.
Alderperson Moyer,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Macias,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes. That is all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Okay, just a couple things. I really enjoy getting feedback from residents, as we heard today, and I wanted to let you all know that myself, the clerk as deputy liquor commissioner, Lieutenant Raya, and Deputy Chief Nove met with O'Keefe's owners this last week. There have been some violent disturbances down there. I don't take these things lightly anytime they happen, so we scheduled that as soon as we could. And there's a good working relationship right now between them and the police department to try to work on solutions for at least the atmosphere down there. We can talk further as a council as we go further about noise and other issues that Mr. McDermott brought up. Also, I'm gonna make sure I reach out to the Human Rights Commission about ability access with the paratransit question, and certainly follow up with Mr. Nelson about these comments. It's pretty disturbing to see the roadblocks that we put up for certain parts of our community, knowingly or unknowingly, so it's better that we're in conversation with people. But I know the Human Rights Commission is interested in these access issues, and so they will most likely be supportive in the form of a letter or of support for making changes to policy, et cetera. Yes, Ms. Christopoulos.
Actually, we've been working on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was referred from an earlier email I had gotten
Yeah.
from someone, so thank you for reminding me of that. And also, I did attend one brief afternoon of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which they let me in because I begged to be there, and I promised that I wasn't going to use my credential to go to the White House on Friday, because I was really there for the Mayor's Innovation Project, but at both professional conferences, I brought back a lot of good information. One of the best that I can't wait to share with Ryan and our administrators was about how to repurpose empty office space downtown. Oh, and also with Alex. I'll be glad to share it with you. So lots of really helpful information that was brought back, and I'll share that as it comes out. That's all I have at the moment.
Just to echo your thoughts on Mr. Fireman's issue with a 2-week notice to get a ride, and then it's only with driver availability that you can get it. That's not a service. That's actually more of a hindrance, and it's outrageous.
Mr. Macias.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Went.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Timian.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing,
Your Honor.
Mr. Vitas.
Wow. I guess I'll just close by saying I'm really glad to see that we're moving forward with the TIF on Line 92. You know, it's one of our strategic goals. Kudos to this council for approving what will start the process moving forward, you know, in an area of the city that represents our east gate to the city. So I'm thrilled. I mean, I really am. And I think PAR Instruments, Mr. Nelson would be here this evening, but he's actually out of the country on vacation. I ran into him at the airport as he was heading to Cabo. I was going to D.C., so I got a chance to see him and meet his wife. But he'll be thrilled. I think their board of directors will be thrilled. They're an old Moline company, so I think that's really, really great news. And I'm glad to see we're moving forward with the LRS project. I mean, it's been 19 months in the making, and probably longer for the airport, because I think it started there. So it's all real good, and great feedback from all of you. So thank you very much. That's all I have this evening.
Any other staff? All right, hearing none. Is there any more public comment? All right, and we do not have executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion by Alderperson Went, seconded by O'Brien. All in favor? Any opposed? We're done.